Imagine 8 million years ago. A time undocumented in any history book. Before the pyramids, before the wheel was invented, before humans even knew words. Amidst the silence of ancient times, there is a story that has never been told. The story of the first humans, who looked up at the sky and asked, "Who are we and where do we come from?" This story is not mere fiction. It touches the deepest depths of our human curiosity. About mysterious lights in the sky. About voices that are inaudible but call from afar. About changes that changed the history of humanity forever. If you enjoy mystery stories that blend elements of history, science, and a hint of fear of the unknown, then this story is for you. Listen carefully, feel every second, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think? Is it possible that all of this really happened? A thin mist enveloped the vast valley nestled between two ancient rocky mountains. The sun had just touched the horizon, revealing a pale orange hue that reflected off the surface of a small stream. The atmosphere was silent, as if the world had yet to hear human voices. Amidst the dense, untouched forest, lived a group of early humans. They had yet to name themselves. They relied solely on instinct. Their bodies were covered in thin fur, their eyes sharp, and their movements resembled those of wild animals. They weren't fully animals, but they couldn't yet be called humans as we know them today. They existed on the border between primitiveness and the dawn of consciousness. Among them there was one who stood out. A young man named Mavi. He was slender, but his eyes held something the others lacked: curiosity. He often watched the sky longer than the others, watching the lightning strike the trees, and remained silent while others were busy hunting. One day, before the fog had completely cleared, Mavi slipped out of hiding. He climbed a steep cliff, something considered taboo by his group. From the top, he saw a vast expanse of untouched land. But what transfixed him was a strange flash of light in the northern forest. It wasn't lightning, it wasn't natural fire, but something inexplicable. The light pulsed slowly like breathing. When he returned, no one believed his story. The elders simply glared at him angrily. How could a child speak of a light that didn't come from the sky or fire? They considered it a transgression. An ancient belief held that anyone who gazed upon a strange light would incur a curse. But that night, as the stars began to dim, Mavi was awakened by a voice in his mind. It wasn't a human voice, nor an animal. It was like a whisper, like a call. He clutched his chest, trying to calm himself, but the voice grew louder. And as he looked up at the sky, he saw, not a star, not a moon, but a large shadow hovering slowly over the forest. Mavi knew the world he knew had just changed. The night sky felt heavy. The clouds were no longer just clouds. They moved slowly, swirling like a vortex lurking above. Mavi stood in the middle of the meadow, alone. The voice still echoed in his head. He didn't know what the words meant, but their meaning was clear. He was being called. The next morning, the small village, made of stone huts and dry twigs, began to feel uneasy. The hunters had returned early. The animals in the forest were acting strangely. Birds were flying low, and the deer herds were no longer visible. An elder named Gura warned the entire group to stay close to the campfire. He said something from the sky was approaching, and it wasn't a good sign. But Mavi felt otherwise. He felt as if he were being picked up by something greater than himself. Without a word, he slipped out of the settlement again as dusk fell. His footsteps took him in the direction of the strange light from the previous night. This time he carried a black stone, sharpened to a point, not to fight but to guard. He followed the winding river, crossing damp boulders, until he finally arrived at a hidden valley. That's where he saw it. In the middle of the clearing, a large circle had formed in the ground. The surrounding grass was charred. No trees dared grow there. And in the center of the circle stood a towering stone, the height of a grown man, unlike any stone he had ever seen. Its surface was smooth and dark, reflecting the dim light from the sky. As he approached, The voice in his mind grew louder. The stone was speaking, but not with a voice. With shadows, with shapes, with memories that weren't his own. He saw fire. He saw the sky opening. He saw a tall, silver-skinned figure standing amidst a crowd of ancient humans, teaching them something. Something forgotten in history. Suddenly, Mavai fell to his knees, his chest heaving. The stone emitted a small glow from within, as if responding to his presence. Around him, the forest fell silent. There were no animal sounds. Only a gentle breeze carried the scent of burning earth. When he opened his eyes again, the day had changed. But in his hand, he clutched a small piece of black stone that had broken away from the monolith. He knew he was no longer the same. And the world had begun its first change. Mavai returned to his group with heavy steps. He carried no food, no game, only a small black stone that pulsed softly in his hand. Along the way, the trees seemed to bend. The wind was no longer just wind, but a whisper from an earlier era. Upon reaching the village, he was immediately captured. The elders' faces were filled with anger and fear. They sensed something changing within Mavai. His eyes were no longer human. His skin was warmer, his movements calmer, and he began to speak words they didn't understand. Gura ordered Mavai to be isolated, tied to the foot of a dead tree believed to be the abode of ancestral spirits. But that night, the sky was split open by a purple light. The sky was no longer still. A creature descended slowly, tall, thin, with eyes like dark crystals. It didn't touch the ground. The air around it vibrated gently. All the humans fled except Mavai. The creature didn't speak, but Mavai understood everything. He was given visions. Of a world that had once burned. Of a civilization before civilization. About beings from a distant star who once came to Earth, not to conquer, but to give a beginning. Mavai was lifted. Not to the sky but to another consciousness. He no longer thought like a human. He understood time, space, and origin. The black stone in his hand merged into his body. And light spread. The mountains trembled. The forests moved. The rivers changed course. But the change was short-lived. The celestial being departed, leaving Mavai unrecognizable even to himself. He did not die. But he did not live like a human. He became a kind of guardian, a silent figure standing behind the forest and mist, at one with nature. Thousands of years passed. The forest swallowed the village. The rocks crumbled. Early writings were carved into cave walls by those who saw the luminous figure from afar. Humanity continued to evolve, forgetting its origins, forgetting Mavai. Yet, deep in the earth, beneath the ruins of time, the black stone still beats, waiting for someone brave enough to hear the voice from the sky once more.